Good morning, everyone. Let's get started, and we'll begin. Let's stand and have a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning, turning this meeting over to you, asking for your wisdom, guidance, enable us to be careful to consider this guidance, and therefore be able to think, serve, and not make the best possible life. Thank you for those in this meeting we have taken the first year. Thank you for the special presentation. Member of our armed forces today is not able to be here. Comfort of grief with him after the fall. Be with his family and friends and have his fathers. Pray for all of us for the good of the Lord. Keep him in the Lord. For one thing, we will ask to be our moderator today. Provide us with all that we need. Pray all of us by the Lord.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whichever one of those two might misbehave. Still speaking right.
It's not none of that.
All right, once again, welcome to our first meeting of the year, January 12, 2015. It's just a few moments after 9 o'clock. And this is our first meeting of the month, our regularly scheduled meeting. And we're going to begin here with item number 1, public comments and or requests for information on non-agenda items in accordance with Section 551.042 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. I don't have any requests to speak. In general, I do have one request to speak on a specific agenda item. And again, I'll ask that you complete one of these if you would like to speak towards any one of these items. Anyone want to speak now during the public comment time? All right, item number 2, consider and possibly approve minutes from December 22nd, 2014. This was our last meeting of the year. It was our second meeting of the month. So we call that our special meeting of the Commissioners Court. Got a copy of those minutes. If anyone wanted to take a look at those.
Good. Look at those meetings and make a motion to accept.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to accept and approve those minutes from December 22's meeting. Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 3, special presentation by Steve Austin to Mr. James Malcom Palmer. And I'll let Steve expound upon that. And unfortunately, Mr. Palmer and his family is not able to be with us, but we wanted to go ahead and mention this. Steve?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm here to say James Malcom Palmer. This is a particularly unique situation. We've made some military specials in the past, but this is kind of unique. He was in the Army Air Corps. And shortly after training was concluded, he was assigned to the base in Houston, in which some of his marksmanship training was conducted. And being in the Army Air Corps, the marksmanship instructors came to the base and grabbed in with their instructors with their army. The arms provided to the with bolt action. They actually have two calibers, 308 and later converted to a 30-06. And I have here a presentation of what the actual weapon system looked like, bolt action rifle. And these were also firing positions that the individuals were trained in order to make a marksmanship qualification. If you'll notice all of the pictures, don't note the campaign hat, which was symbolic of World War I, same as the actual weapons themselves. So these individuals were using surplus bolt action rifles for their marksmanship training. In 1943, the Department of the Army came out with a new badge for services and conduct of military expertise in the field, and they identified it as an infantry expert badge. It's quite similar to the combat infantry badge, although there are two completely different entities, and the United States Army does not authorize the wearing of both emblems. This is the EIB, or the infantry expert badge, which is on a blue field of musket. The combat infantry badge either has a garland of grease around it, or garland of grease and stars, depending on how many exposures to combat against the enemy. Again, only one is authorized to wear. And these are particularly for the infantry. The unique thing about this presentation today is that Mr. Palmer was in the United States Army Air Corps. The reason that he received the award, shortly after 1943, when the medal became available, the Army entered into a developmental phase where they assigned a committee of staff NCOs, and they were spread out through the Army. Out of that group, they selected 100 infantry experts to be considered for approval. And out of that, a final 10. And then in October 1944, the first presentation of the EIB was formally made to Army Staff Sergeant Bull. Prior to that time is when Mr. Palmer had received his training, and those individuals providing the marksmanship training had been awarded the badge for special presentations because they were training all recruits. While at the base in Houston, 200 of Mr. Palmer's associates in training, such as other recruits, he and 200 others went to the firing range that morning and began their staffing in process, which is familiarization with the weapons and practicing setting up in the different firing positions and distances. As the marksmanship training went on, which took most of the day, and the smoke cleared, out of the 200, Mr. Palmer was the only recruit in training to have hit all the targets from the different ranges and fire positions with enough rounds to qualify for expert. At that point in time, one of the primary marksmanship instructors removed his badge and awarded it to Mr. Palmer. This unique situation, the expert badge is usually a Maltese cross with expert and the insignia of either the rifle or specific weapon system that the Army expert might have. This is probably one of the rarest occasions, and one of the few, if not the only, unique situation where a non-infantryman was awarded by his firing coach and shooting instructor the expert infantry badge. And I'll provide to the judge to review and present to Mr. Palmer at a later date. But give it to the judge so he can look at it.
Is it IEB or EIB?
It's infantry expert badge, IEB.
IEB.
And again, the criteria for this particular badge was developed, it was approved in 1943. In between 1943 and October 1944, a special committee convened to determine what all would be involved in making the award. In the meantime, the badge was available to the instructors who were trained to the United States Army, regardless of the field in the risk. But because of Mr. Palmer's expertise on that particular day, out of the group of 200, where he was the only individual to make expert by hitting all the targets from the different ranges, different fire positions, expired, the shooting instructor removed his own badge and presented it to Mr. Palmer, which is a unique situation. I'm very blessed in the job that I have here, we're across these stories and documenting. That's why I feel it's important to have the additional record today. Mr. Palmer being 94. Even though we plan to make the award later for pictures and stuff, I want to make sure we got on the record for not only him but his family. I made copies available for the press and the record, and the judge has a copy of the Marksmanship. Again, you can see the different fire positions, explains the fire system of the Springfield bolt-action rifle. Originally designed for one basis, but was used for training purposes in the third part of World War II.
How did you come to know about this?
In visiting with veterans, application of benefits, Mr. Palmer was who couldn't make it to my office, so I went to his home to see how I could help him with the application of VA benefits. And in the interim time, working with him and listening to some of the stories and read across this, and it just had to be told.
Sure did. Well, again, unfortunately, he was unable to be here today. If you can find an opportunity after talking to his family where he could safely come up here, great. If it'd be better to maybe make a visit to his home, I'll let you decide that and let me know. But thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. Okay, I'm going to try this microphone one more time. I just turned it off the wireless.
Give a short report.
Right over about where Mike is.
I can try to mitigate that if we do the recording and ends up being a problem.
Carl, tap on that, see if it's
Up here.
just related to the environment. All right, item number 4, status report for Titus County pass-through projects. Welcome, Mr. Heidecker.
Commissioner, Judge, good morning. Just wanted to give everybody a little status report where we are on the pass-through projects for Titus County with the Texas Department of Transportation. As everyone is well aware, US 271 has been open and folks have been driving on it, and we have received preliminary traffic counts from TxDOT, so very excited about the numbers we're starting to see. So, moving on with that, PTP, currently we've been working on finalizing the final submittal for documentation that needs to be turned in regards to the pass-through agreement, which would be all the as-built, the record keeping, the payrolls, the cost estimates, things of that nature, all the right-of-way we've been working on getting that transferred over into the name of TxDOT as well, making sure all the liens, everything was cleared up, and so that TxDOT would have all the documentation and be ready to accept all the paperwork. Right now, the only thing we're lacking to turning over, or that's holding us up from turning the complete paperwork over, is the final pay estimate on 271. What we do is we go in and meet with the contractor. There's quantity items, some ran over, some went under, and so we're just balancing that out. Hope to bring that back at the next Commissioner's Court, be able to pay the, I think the final demobilization is on the pay estimate that's in for payment right now, but then the final quantities and all that, once that gets worked out, we'll be able to run that through, process that pay estimate, get that check to them, and then that will be the last portion of that full submittal that needs to be turned in. Also, I'm not sure if anybody has noticed, there was some cracking on some of the concrete on 271. The PTP staff and the area office were working on that area where the concrete failed. That's on the southbound exit ramp at the south end of the project. The construction, inspection, and the testing reports have all been reviewed by both PCP and TxDOT, and it was determined that no work or material placed was out of spec. So the only thing they can really draw the conclusion to, they think something may have malfunctioned in the concrete plant. They don't believe when they were adding rock, adding sand, adding cement, they think maybe the cement portion was not adding the correct amount. So we worked with Williams Brothers. Williams Brothers has agreed to come up here, a small little section. It's on a saw joint, maybe 15 feet by 5 feet that they're going to have to remove. They are going to come up here and do it. It is not Williams Brothers' responsibility at this time because the project has been turned over. TxDOT has accepted it in for their maintenance program. But we worked with Williams Brothers. They've agreed. They don't like that it happened out there. So they're going to mobilize a new crew from Houston, bring equipment back up here, saw that little section back out. There will be a lane closure at some point to do that. But they're trying to schedule this the week of the 19th. Now, everyone knows in pouring concrete, there's some stipulations with weather, temperature, and so forth. So depending on, when they can squeeze that in with the weather, but their goal is the 19th of this month, they can get that repaired and back. We really want to thank Williams Brothers for bringing their crews up here. Like I said, they've got to bring all their equipment back. They're going to get concrete from L&P since they don't have a concrete plant up here right now. But they are going to fix it and stand behind their product. So I think our hats are off to Williams Brothers for doing that for the county, for TxDOT, and for PTP as well. For the FM 1000 project, to date we have paid $17,904.40. That does include material on hand. The entire contracted amount is $18,846,843.37. So that leaves about $1.85 million worth of work left on the James construction project. The majority of that is in the seal coat, which cannot be done until the May 1st deadline that TxDOT has put out there, or cannot be started, I guess, until that date. But there are some items they're working on. Dirt crew, they've been dressing up the slopes and the ditches. And then on FM 1735 and FM 2348, they were finally able last week to get the striping complete. So now those cross streets are in their final configuration. Traffic is on its original place with the striping, and the barrels have been removed as well. There's a couple little areas they need to kind of fix some of the striping. I think it kind of got out of whack in a couple of areas, about 800 feet. Doesn't really change the way traffic's driving, so forth, but you will see them out there again working at a little bit later date once the temperature gets better. The bridge crews are working to correct the imperfections in the rail. They applied a coating to the side of the rail. I guess they kind of got it a little thin in some areas, and so the coating started to crack. They were chipping, it's just a finished texture. They were chipping the texture off, and they're going to reapply that as well once the weather is really in the first 400 to 500 feet of one side of the rail that they're fixing that on, but they are working on that at this time. They're also working on pouring concrete riprap and bow strips around, the placements of the bridges, and they're also placing rock riprap at the cross culverts. The concrete paving is now complete. However, the paving has begun to show some horizontal and longitudinal cracks at the 271 intersection. This problem was discussed at the progress meeting held on January 7th with TxDOT. I believe Commissioner Fields was there as well. And Commissioner Parker, who attended. PTP, we believe that some of this may need to be removed, is what TxDOT has recommended. Some of it can stay in place and be repaired. So we are working with James Construction and TxDOT right now on a permanent fix. There's actually a meeting at the site today at 10 o'clock. James has brought in a specialist to kind of get to the root of what caused it. Our belief is we don't believe they got out there in time and saw the joints quick enough. James feels there may be something else going on out there, so they want to look into it a little more before tearing some of those sections out, replacing it, and maybe seeing some of the same, cracks reappear. This is all rework being done at James' expense. The county is not on the dime for any of this. Unfortunately, it just affects our schedule. It's just things that have to be done in order for TxDOT to accept the project. Once the meeting's held today, we'll put a plan in place. The plan will need to be approved by PTP as well as TxDOT area office. And then once that plan is approved, then James will start their rework out there. They are estimating the barrels could remain out there in that intersection for up to an additional 2 months starting today. So we are at hope to get the barrels removed in the next couple of weeks. Now we have some cracking and some concrete out there. It's going to have to be some rework, so the barrels are going to stay a little bit longer, unfortunately. The signal crew, I'm sure you've seen, they've been putting up the poles. They've got the drill shaft foundations complete. The signal flow poles and the conduit have been in place on the 271 as well as the FM 1735. There's been a pipe crew, Highway 19, that was doing some installation of pipe. They have walked off the project from James Construction, so James Construction is going to have to pick up that portion of the work. Not a lot of work, but there are a couple of driveways and some culverts that are not complete that James will have to take on their own too. Seating, Southwest Environmental, they've been our seating contractor out there, as well as our SW3P. We've made a deal with them. They're going to be putting out some temporary seating with a summer mix as well as a winter mix to try to get some of the grass to grow in some of the ditches. A lot of that's been some rework because during the rains, the seed washes to the bottom of the ditch. But that's all on their nickel as well, so it's their job to get establishment of grass growing out there. So working with them on that. The signage, up and down the project, many signs need to be placed, drill shafts need to be done for the foundations and so forth. I know several months back we talked that the contractor was going to be placing the sign before they left the project. At this time, after we've all met, we've agreed that it's probably better if we hold off until they come back to do the seal coat, just to avoid any possibility of any damage or vandalism, anybody shooting signs up, somebody hitting them, knocking them over, things of that nature. If that would occur, that would be an additional expense for Titus County that we would have to pay for if anything like that happened. So we're just going to hold the signs off until they come back and do the seal coat as well. Fencing, they're scheduled to install the fencing above the UPRR next week. This is just a protection fence above the bridge to keep folks from throwing off items off the bridge onto the railroad track or the cars passing by. Seal coat crew, like we mentioned, they are shut down until May 1st. We have had numerous discussions with James Construction. They feel they are going to start reworking the base in April and then be able to start placing seal coat May 1st, weather contingent, and then they still plan to be complete May 15th. I'm sure I get some gasps of people up in the audience and so forth. We understand what James Construction has done. They've prolonged this. But we're just reiterating the information they give to us. They're saying May 15th. They told the judge and I way back they would have met their deadline. They said by Thanksgiving. They said by Christmas. Now they're saying for sure they'll be out of here May 15th. Some items you'll see below, remaining work still to be performed. These are items that PTP staff have gone out in the field and have just noticed out in the field. We still need the removal of Mr. Creeper's concrete driveway, but that will not be allowed to be done until the 271 FM 1000 intersection is back up in operation. There's still mulch, sod, and seeding that needs to be complete. They need to rework the flex base before they can place the seal coat. They've also got to put prime coat and blotter on before they can place seal coat. Then they'll be allowed to place seal coat. As we mentioned, there's rock riprap at the outfalls and the cross culvert, concrete riprap. There's still driveways that need to be completed as well as culvert. The intersection and the driveway surface treatments need to be done. Concrete directional islands you see out there on the intersection of 271 and 1000. They have them kind of roughed in, but they're not poured yet. The chain link fence on UPRR, pipe drain 271. All mailboxes are still yet to be installed. The signalization, there's still a lot of work and major pay items on the signalization yet to be done. The signs, we're going to hold off until they come back to do the seal coat. Then we have reflectors and striping. Then we need to remove the barriers in some locations. Also the ditch slopes, we need to make sure those are brought to their final grade. Once that's done, then we'll replace all the seating and then repair the cracks. PTP has also been working on a punch list. This punch list is items that TxDOT, when they went out and would walk the project, would find that would need to be corrected. We have given a punch list preliminary to the contractor. They've been completing some of these items, and then we've been removing items as well as adding additional ones as we find. Our staff over the next couple of weeks will be going over the plans, making sure everything that was in the plans was built out in the field, whether it be culverts, driveways, signage, whatever the case may be, and making notes on a set of plans that we can hand over to the contractor to find any items they may have missed at that point. Completion of construction, like I said, James Construction, they are stating to all of us that May 15th, they're going to have the seal coat done, the striping, and we're hopefully going to have the road open to traffic. PTP understands the frustration of all involved in not completing the FM 1000 project in 2014. The failure to complete is a direct result of the contractor not committing the forces necessary to complete the work when the weather was optimal. Further, at every meeting held with James Construction project staff as well as upper management, and there were over 100 of these meetings over the course of this project, James Construction Group committed to cure all deficiencies but never completely followed through with their work. As the court is aware, Titus County is constrained to follow all state and federal laws and guidelines in the completion of the FM 1000 project. Unfortunately, those laws at this time and guidelines dictate how the contractor is selected, and we all know that's by the lowest and most responsive bidder, as well as stipulate a process on how a contractor can be terminated. The termination is not a simple process, and oftentimes when a contractor is defaulted or terminated, more control is taken from the county and shifted to the company which has bonded the contractor's work. Once a bonding company becomes involved, the bonding company determines when to bring in another contractor to finish all the outstanding work, as well as who the contractor will be, and the county would have very limited power over that. In addition, the bonding company is going to want to negotiate that work, which is truly outstanding, and what items fall under the rework category, and will rework to complete the project for no additional cost for this item. The default process is cumbersome and continuous process. Seldom does it benefit the project sponsor, unfortunately. While the current situation with James Construction is frustrating to the Commissioner's Court, the taxpayers of Titus County, and PTP, there is a known amount of money which will be required to complete the project, and there is a date certain that liquidated damages will be assessed, and that starts May 15th. James Construction has committed to stay and finish the project. If they do stay and work through the first quarter to wrap up all remaining items, stay on site in April to begin the prep work on the base, which will be required prior to the placement of seal coat, and then hit the seal coat and striping as soon after May 1st and the weather allows. It is more than possible for James Construction to make their May 15th deadline. PTP is committed to pushing James Construction, as we have, to complete by or close to the May 15th deadline as possible by the weather. Staying the course at this point and finishing the project with James Construction Group, in PTP's opinion, is the best option available to Titus County.
I appreciate you addressing that after you and I have discussed this a few times, and here they are. We've paid them 90% of all the money we're going to pay them. It looks to me like less than $2 million is still owed to them.
That's correct. Yeah, there's about $1.85 million. There are some savings on there. We've run some numbers. It looks like James has about $1 million coming to them to complete the project. The rest goes to some of their subs, with maybe a few $100,000 here or there in savings is what we're looking at right now.
My question to Mark was, why not just fire them and hire somebody else and pay them what was remaining on the contract? Unfortunately, it's not as simple as doing that. think you've addressed it fairly clearly. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Now's your opportunity. You expect them to be continuing to work the small projects that they can be doing during the winter another couple of months?
I had an
2 or 3
hour-long
months.
conference call with them last week that I updated the judge on. PTP's opinion, I don't see them pulling off the project. They're telling us they would like to be off by the end of February. They've submitted their little items of work that need to be done. The longest one says 3 to 4 weeks, but then there's 4 or 5 that say weather contingent. Well, 3 to 4 weeks turns to 7 to 8 weeks very quickly. We still have the repair work on 271 intersection with concrete that we don't even have a fix for yet that's approved by TxDOT. We're the middle of January already. 3 weeks gets us first part of February. The weather is going to be the end of February. I don't think they could really pull off to the middle of March. I finally got James to admit, well, we were looking at leaving for 1 month. My exact answer was, why pull out of here for a month? You could still stay here and do some of the other work, start reworking the base. If they're going to come back April 1st, which is what they need to do, and they're saying to rework the base. So pull out March 1st, March 7th, March 10th, come back April 1st. I'm not sure that really does them any good. I personally do not see them pulling off the project. I don't think they'll be that far as they think. They'll need that extra time. If the weather cooperates, very easily the items left are just minor nitpicky things, rework stuff that's not a pay item. That's the problem. They're out there right now with crews, a reduced crew most definitely, but they're doing rework, repairing the ditches that they had to go in and tear rock filter dams out, reseeding items, things of that nature, repairing the bridge, repairing, the concrete intersection, things that they're not getting paid for it. But unfortunately, when they tear it back out, you still got to inspect it, you still got to test it, you still got to make sure it's being put back right. So items like that, which when the judge and I discussed, when trying to think of getting rid of James, which could be done, not an easy task, but very difficult, but then you'd have to find another contractor by working through the bonding company that could come in here, and they're going to be paid for that rework. When right now we have James Construction Group on the hook to redo all their mistakes that they did.
All right. Anything else? You be around today in case anybody wanted to
I will be
talk
around
to you?
today. If you don't mind, I was going to try to scoot out here if I can get out here close and go sit in on the 10 o'clock meeting as well.
Sure.
Just to get, just at some point, even if I show up late. But I'll be in town. If anybody wants to sit down and discuss, please give me a call. Let me know.
Okay, well, if there's no questions, why don't we continue on to item 5, which has to do with a small
Yes, sir.
change order.
For James Construction, this change order 8, this was really created by TxDOT. They had, I'm sure a lot of people saw in the media, they were changing their end treatments with the bridges and so forth because the manufacturer was having some issues, and I think they were protruding through a car instead of wrinkling up. This is a change in the product for one end treatment. It was a little bit additional cost, $628. You'll see on the back, our original guardrail was $79.28. The original was $7,300. The new one's $79.28. It's really just changing one guardrail for another, so there was additional $628 that we needed to pay the contractor for that. So we're asking the court to consider and approve change order 8 for the additional payment of $628 for an additional end treatment for a guardrail.
Okay, so that is an action item to consider and possibly approve this change order related to FM 4000, $628.
Like that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fields to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'm going to sign this. All right, yeah, if you just check back maybe when you're done with that meeting. Thank you. Okay, item number 6, shifting gears here, consider and possibly approve changes and additional charges related to heating, ventilation, air conditioning in the adult probation construction project. Mr. Basham.
Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. I don't know what's the cutoff date that puts me in Happy New Year. I guess it's until the end of January. It says already. The probation construction is complete, and they're moved in. The final stages of completion had to do with lowering the handrail on the backside and finishing the structure for the green wall, and then some site cleanup, and then the sign on the front door, which was put on Friday. The last of the green wall was completed on Saturday morning. So it is complete. There are some things that are left in that corner building. He's cleaned up all of his stuff. One of the things that Steve Austin had brought over to me was an old 4-foot door that came off the old train station. He's brought it to me. It's stored over there right now. I'm going to take it and clean it up, and we're going to look for an opportunity to use it on the next project in the county when we get to the county courtroom in the future. We'll find a way to reuse that door some way and put a plaque on it and historically protect it for what's going on in there. There are two, we were doing the final closeout and the cost on the project. There were 2 items that came to bear on the project that we didn't know about until we started doing the closeout. One is additional electric charges, electrician charges for the change of the HVAC. And I'll explain all these in detail. And the other one had to do with ducting the return on the air conditioning. Just a little history, just because we've got a new commissioner here. The original construction plan was to reuse the existing 5-ton gas-fired HVAC unit that was over there. While we were getting ready, we had some vandalism over there. Let me go back. Was to use the existing 5-ton unit and provide a new second 5-ton unit for the renovation. They would have put 2 5-ton units over there, and to use the plenum, which is the space between the ceiling and the roof, to return the air. Vandalism after the contract award resulted in irreparable damage to the existing 5-ton unit, causing the need for a contract change to add a new 5-ton unit. Y'all approved the addition of $6,250 for one new 5-ton HVAC unit. The subcontractor on the air conditioning is Roberts Air Conditioning. They provided and installed 2 5-ton units per the amended contract, but they supplied them as heat pump units, which are electric, versus the gas that we had originally had in there. The reason they did that had to do with the energy efficiency of them, and they were following suit with what they've been putting in other county projects. So they went to the heat pump. What got missed in the process of doing that was there was an upcharge from the electrician to have to hook in those 2 new electrical units. That was never filed until we started closing out the project. When D'Angelo Development got the bill from the electrician, there was an extra $2,100 in there for hooking up those 2 units that wasn't in the original bid. So I'm presenting and offering and asking the court to look at approving $2,100 for the additional electrical charge for those units going to electrical. The second change had to do with the ducted return. As I said, the original plan was to use that space between the ceiling and the roof to return the air. For that to happen, it needs to be insulated. The original plan was to insulate the underside of the roof so that that space would be insulated and we could use that ducted return. There were discussions that were held with Roberts and D'Angelo and myself that it was less expensive to duct the return versus insulate the underside of the ceiling, because there were some problems with that, and also with any kind of penetration on that roof that's got a 20-year warranty on it was another issue that was of concern, is not having to break that roof again. Ducted return was provided and installed. The assumption was made by all that the savings from not insulating the roof would be used for the cost of ducting the return. And so the project went on, everything was finished up, final bills came in. What happened was that the living space or the workspace underneath still had to be insulated, even though you had the ducted return. So D'Angelo put insulation in above the ceiling, which is a normal process. So it is insulated space, but there was no savings from not insulating the underside of the ceiling. So there's a mischarge there, a missing cost that wasn't accounted for. The issue of additional cost for the HVAC return was not even identified until we got the final receipt from Roberts Air Conditioning. The original Roberts estimate that was on the original bid was $12,550. The court approved the change for the new 5-ton unit, which was $62.50, making the total that was previously approved for Roberts $18,900. The final bill from Roberts is $22,990, resulting in that delta of $4,090 for the extra work that's directly associated with the return air ducting. So I'm asking the court to also consider and approve that change for Roberts Air Conditioning, and that will close out that final project and close out all the cost on that project.
That's 2,100 and plus 4,090,
Correct.
6,190.
Well, Chris and I discussed this at length last week, and this is a frustration to me, and I expressed that to Chris. And I understand that we probably would have, had we known all this up front, the price would have been the same, and we would have ended up having to pay for this. What I don't like is surprises like this. You know, we're presented, you know, some figures, and we approved those figures as total costs on this project, and to have, you know, I know that the damage to the AC unit was unforeseen, and that added $6,200, and now we've added $2,100 and $4,090. What I don't really still understand is why our contractor is not saying, hey, but I can do this, but there will be additional charges involved. And I don't know why D'Angelo didn't ask. I don't know why Roberts didn't mention it. I don't know why the electrician didn't mention it. But again, whether it's my personal business or whether it's county business, to have surprises like this dropped in on me at the last minute is frustrating. And I would sure like to find a way where we can avoid something like this on that Ratliff building.
We've actually added a clause on the Ratliff building. We'll get to that later on in the agenda, but we've actually added a clause and had discussions with Richard Jones that I need to know immediately when something looks like it might be coming. Even if he doesn't have an actual number, I need to be aware of the issue that's coming forward so that I can keep you guys informed of what may be coming, even though I may not know the actual price at that point. And I had the discussion both with D'Angelo and with Roberts that we need to know these things up front. And it was kind of one of these things where everybody was doing this. I thought you had it, and I thought you had it. And so it just got missed until the final end when everybody had to start paying the bills. And actually the bills came in. Like I said, we didn't even know about the Roberts additional charge until we got the final bill from Roberts.
I'll also look to you to oversee these guys and to be continually asking questions. How much more is this going to cost, if any? How much is this included in your original bid? And I know you've had that conversation with Richard Jones. Hopefully he'll have that same conversation with everybody that works for him on this job. You know, paying the money is one thing, but not being prepared for it and having it at the tail end here after you've already made the painstaking choice of approving a fairly large project. And here we're getting ready to start on a second project that I would sure like to see it stay within our cost estimates. Now, I understand things that are unforeseen will come up, but we'll have to deal with those. But let's deal with them and at least give this court the opportunity to discuss it before the money is spent, so that they're coming back, not coming back and saying, oh, by the way, we did have to spend some extra money here.
I agree completely, sir.
Anyway, and I know you and I went over all that, but I wanted the commissioners to know that we had had that discussion, because I want them to have some assurance that this isn't going to happen again, or at least it will be managed better if it happens again. Commissioners, do you have any questions about these? I apologize for this popping up here at the tail end.
From what I know about county government codes, we're supposed to get bonds on all of this contract work. Where are the bonds? None of this is bonded? Do we have any bonds from D'Angelo?
You
We
do
got any
not,
bonds
it's not
for?
required.
Do what?
You do not, and it's not required.
Oh, God.
I would recommend bonds when, at the court's pleasure about a certain level of project. There will be additional cost. I mean, as you well know, when they bond, you pay for it. The contractors will add the cost of that bond to the price of the contract. That's why even in the government, on the federal projects that I do, most of the projects aren't bonded until they're over $1 million. Now, I would recommend for the county, if you're going to start doing a bonding requirement, that you set a number, whatever y'all are comfortable with, but realizing that you're going to end up paying for that bond as an additional cost, which is it's good insurance, but I would not probably recommend that on smaller projects. And maybe it's at the $200,000 range, if that's what y'all want, or $500,000. I can say the stuff that I do for the federal government and the state is usually around $1 million before they start asking for performance bonds.
Well, they've got a lot more money than we do, so
Right.
we may want to consider that. I don't know how that would have helped in a situation like this, and I don't really understand. You know, I've never had to call on somebody's bond. We just talked about a bond on a huge project, and the realities are it doesn't just make everything run perfectly smooth, and if you run into a glitch, it just automatically writes you a check. So I don't know how that works. So,
And the bond would not have affected this situation at all. The bond is failure to perform, and this is not a failure to perform issue here. This is just additional cost. It's a change that wasn't, it was identified late, and I apologize on behalf of all of the contractors and subcontractors and for the process. That shouldn't have happened, and I don't like it happening. I never did like this happening at the end of a project, but a bond would not cure this or have offered anything in here.
what will a bond do for us if we choose to do that?
If a contractor fails to perform and you can't get him to act, I would have to agree with Pate that your best action is to get the existing contractor to perform by whatever means you can. Because if you don't, then you end up delaying the project, number one. Two, you do lose control. I'm dealing with another issue at Fort Hood right now where the prime contractor basically fired the HVAC contractor, and they're going back to the bonding agent, and it's been 3 months now them trying to get that process, trying to get another contractor on board. There's a whole lot of legal things that go into it. The bond will provide insurance, but it will delay the project. You will pay for that bond up front, and you will lose control over, because the bonding agent then is the one that's responsible for making sure the contract gets done at his discretion. So the bond does have a value. But again, I personally would not recommend it until you get to a certain level, and y'all can decide what that level is, and we can put that in place. Same thing on the liquidated damages that we talked about before too. If there is a criticality for having a project finished at a certain time, then I would recommend the use of liquidated damages. Liquidated damages on the federal side and the state side are based on the cost to the county in this case if the project is not finished by that certain time. Then the liquidated damages have to be substantiated that we're going to miss this, we're going to miss that, and here's the cost of doing that. So liquidated damages are not meant to be just ambiguous. They have to be supported. But again, liquidated damages, you'll pay for those. The contractor will put an extra price in there just as contingency because he doesn't know what's going to happen sometimes. So liquidated damages can be put into. Again, I would not recommend it normally on a small project unless it's a project of such critical nature that you have to have it done by a certain time. And then that presents that message to the contractor that this is a no kidding, we got to have this done by this, and to make sure that then you're going to start paying this much a day if it's not done by then.
What about the law that we're supposed to have bonds? The government regulations, there's no regulations. I suggest we get the county attorney or some attorney to look into the fact. I believe that we're required to have a bond. whether you think we should or not.
I'll sure have the county attorney take a look at that going forward.
There are different kinds of bonds too. I mean, the performance bond is one kind. Your subcontractors and contractors are bonded. That's how they get their loans. That's how they do their work. There's insurance that they have to have, both for liability and for non-performance. I mean, there's all kinds of different bonds. So as you look into that, there's a level of education that goes into what the bonds are used for, how you apply them, and then it becomes a decision about when you want to apply them. I mean, if you have air conditioning work done on this building, you don't have a bonded contract normally if you're doing maintenance work. So there's a line that you make the decision about when you want to include that cost for that. So.
What does a bond cost? I mean, just ballpark
Depending
idea.
upon what's the right word, trustworthiness of the contractor, the bond prices can be anywhere from 1% to 3% of the construction cost.
So on a $250,000 project, it could be 2,500 to 7,500.
Oh, not
2,500
to 7,500.
2,200 to 7,500. Okay.
Well, the business I was in, I had to have a bond required by the government, and people collected on my bond. If I didn't pay them, they'd file a claim against my bond, and the bond would pay, and I had to pay, of course. That was it. That's what I understand a bond. You say we don't have to have one. Maybe we don't have to have one. Maybe we just should have one.
That is purely y'all's call.
Every time we turn around, there's $6,000 here and $6,000 here that we got to pay. Don't tell them what that building cost. Has anybody added it up? I bet it's $300,000 by now.
Well, again, I don't think there was anything in these additional add-ons, frustrating though they may be, where a bond would have helped us. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What about we keep saying vandalize. We didn't make a sheriff's report, anything about this. Explain vandalize. Somebody steal the copper?
We reported to the court the day after we recognized that somebody had gone into the building, somebody had broken into the building. After we did the demolition and the asbestos removal, we protected and saved a 3-ton unit and a 5-ton unit that were existing over there. We had them in the building. Somebody broke in the back door of the building, got in there and stole all the copper and totally destroyed the reusability of those units. And that was reported to the court the day after we recognized it.
Yeah, we do, but unfortunately on that particular one, the deductible would not have covered the damage. The damage to that old system, which really wasn't that valuable, what it caused us to do is it caused us to have to buy a new one. The insurance was not, there was not an element there that was going to be covered by our insurance policy, is the answer to that.
Brian, I'm trying to understand, Robert's bid this job and got the bid, and now they're
Okay.
raising.
I'll be glad to discuss it with you later. Commissioners, any other questions? Would you go over that one, just since the question has been asked, just go over that one more time.
Okay. The bids that you get from contractors are based on what the project was intended to do. The original project was intended to reuse an existing 5-ton unit over there and buy one more 5-ton unit. After it got vandalized, we had to do a change to buy a new unit, which was going to Roberts. So Roberts' $12,550 original estimate was upped by $6,250 by the court approved addition of a new unit. The second change that occurred was going to a ducted return. They were going to use the plenum. When we made that change between the insulation and using the ducted return was going to be paid for by anybody. So the ducted return was put in. So this is change order number 2 to the Roberts project, which would add $4,090 for that ducted return under the Roberts contract. The 2,100 is a change to the electrical contractor, which I think is Holine Electric, was that $2,100 to them for the connection of the electric units that keep to the unit that they had to do because they were no longer gas units. And that wasn't in the original bid for anybody, so.
So Robert's bill going from 12.5 to 22.9 was two hikes in there. One to replace the unit, another one for the full duct work. There's insulated hard duct work in the crawl space.
That is correct.
In that building that was originally not going to be there.
That's correct.
Commissioners, what would you like to do on this one?
I think we need to pay our bill, even though one of these situations that came up, but I make a motion and we pay the $4,090.
You've also got $2,100 electrical charge.
And the $2,100 electrical.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Fields to pay the $4,090 plus the $2,100 to complete the adult probation job.
This will complete the whole thing, correct?
Yes, sir.
No more surprises.
It's done.
A second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to approve payment of these two remaining items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, Chris, let's move on to the next agenda item here, and that is number 7, consider and possibly approve Ratliff Building signed and stamped drawings.
At the request of the court, we had a complete set of drawings prepared for the Ratliff building. These are ready to go. I brought you these with Richard Jones. What we originally did the project on was the hand-drawn drawings that weren't stamped and signed and sealed. After we got these stamped and signed and sealed, we just basically had it reconfirmed that what we had designed was correct. They are stamped and signed and sealed by myself as the architect, structural engineer, Glenn Calvert with Preferred Complex Designs. Even though there's no structural in there right now, we went ahead and had him just because he advised on it and we looked at it together. And then the mechanical and electrical are signed and sealed. The contractor, Richard Jones, has gone through it and everything is in order and he's ready to start. But the court had basically, the last meeting with the court was you were waiting on this project to get the signed and sealed drawings before the contractor could start. So Richard Jones is ready to start, pending y'all's approval of these, his receipt of these, approval of the receipt. He's ready to go. We also have these digitally. One of the things that we probably need to talk about is the court probably needs, Titus County needs a way to organize and store these drawings and stuff. We have no original drawings, and when we started this process a year and a half ago, one of the issues came about of why we were doing this design build is because there are no record drawings of a lot of these buildings. I had to hunt for probably 6 months to even find a start of some drawings on the whole annex to begin with, and they were just 1 or 2 drawings. They weren't the complete set. I would recommend with the submission of this that the court have some way of cataloging and documenting, maybe with the county clerk, these drawings so that they're available for the future and for changes and stuff. Because that is not available right now. There is no formal system that I've been made aware of with the county. But the digital files are also available, which is another way to store these drawings. The digital files of these exact drawings. And then just to refresh everybody's memory, court's already approved the $6,400. That's for the design team fees. And so as soon as these are accepted, I'll be able to get everybody paid under the design team.
You had mentioned a few changes to these over what we approved back in November, and as I recall, you've got a new exterior door.
That's correct.
Maybe a new workstation and a window somewhere. Will you go over anything else you can
There were
think
3
of?
changes. That's another reason I met with Richard Jones is In the interim, from when we had this approved, I met with Judy Cook and her folks. There were several changes that were made that were incorporated, and that Richard Jones, one of the reasons I met with Richard Jones was to make sure that the pluses and minuses that we changed on the drawings would result in no change in cost. And we got that confirmed 2 days ago. Those changes were, number one, we added an exterior door. One of the things that the ladies were missing was having an exterior window or something in their area, because they've got that whole window on the front side right now. So we added an exterior door with glass in it that serves both as an egress, that makes it a little easier for them to get out, and to also add some sunlight in there. So there'll be a new exterior door added. The second thing was they wanted to raise their workstations. Right now, they sit in regular chairs at a desktop height, and then they reach up to a counter to do their transactions with the community. One of the things they all wanted to do was raise the whole thing up to counter height. So the desk levels were all redrawn to go from the 30 inches up to the 42 inches, so they're now sitting at the same height of the window. The other thing that does is allow them to hide their cash drawers, which are state-provided cash drawers that go underneath the counter, and they can work the cash drawers without people being able to see what's actually in their cash drawers. So it was a security thing. Judy Cook also wanted to add a separation wall that wasn't in there, completely across between the tax office and the vehicle registration office. The way we had it originally set up was the vehicle registration was the first thing you came in the door, and then the tax office. If we put that wall between there, it hit a window. So what basically we did, we just flip-flopped them. So we just moved them, and that wall now goes into a regular wall. That was added. We also dropped the addition of another toilet area, and there's 2 restrooms in there that are handicapped accessible right now. The original plan was to add another stall in there. The cost of doing that in that old building was going to be quite expensive for several different reasons. After talking with Judy, what we've done now is we've turned them into a staff restroom and then a unisex restroom, which meets code and also stays with not having to change those bathrooms, which are in compliance right now. So that changed. Trying to think what else. The electrical panel will move now from its current location, which is in a closet that also serves as a janitor's closet, which is not a good deal, and will move now to an external wall, so that the fire department, when they come in, will have immediate access to that panel if they need to get into that building. So all of those changes are being made, and they've been incorporated into those drawings, so that that's the new path forward. But there is no change in cost from the original $193,000 that Richard Jones had bid and that y'all approved.
The trellis that was outside, is any of that still remaining?
It is.
Here.
The trellis is still there, and that is included in that price. The Elections Administration has moved out. Went over there and reviewed the building on Friday. Still a lot of trash and stuff in there, but I cleared it with Leonard that all that's ready to be thrown out. So I've asked Commissioner Fields to arrange for the county dumpster to be set up over there today or tomorrow. And as soon as y'all are give me the go, then Richard Jones is ready to start and start tearing out stuff, and so we can get this project going. The estimate is still for 120 calendar days. Richard didn't think it was going to take 120 days, but that's what we talked about in the court. So he's saying 90 to 120 days. There are some additional costs in light of y'all's concern about the total cost on the project. Just as there was in adult probation, there's 2 or 3 things that we don't have cost on right now because they haven't been estimated. One is the furniture. Judy Cook and her folks are putting together a list of the furniture that they're going to need. And I know for a fact that one of the things they need is new chairs, because they've raised that from the desk level up to the counter level. So they're going to go to what I call the old telephone operator chairs, the drafting chairs. They're higher. I don't know what other furniture they're looking at right now, but that's an additional cost. Security cameras, while we have the wiring in there, The court asked that we look, and the judge asked that we look at putting in some security cameras over there. I haven't had them come in yet to estimate what it is going to do and sit down with Judy on where she wants the cameras to go. We'll have it wired so that the cameras can go in the most likely places, which is in the hallways and behind the ladies that are working at the desk there for security. I haven't had a discussion with Leonard if he needs security in the elections admin area, or if we want to go ahead and just put some in there, which I'm going to suggest, just have the wiring in there in case they need them in the future. And then the fire alarm reconnect. The fire alarm is a separate system that is under contract with the county. I've already talked with the fire alarm folks. They'll be over there today to disconnect it so there won't be any false alarms when they start doing demolition. They're going to save all that equipment and reuse it. It's relatively new. Once the project is at a point they can reinstall it, they will come back in. He did tell me that that fire alarm reconnect would be in the neighborhood of $700-800, but he didn't know exactly yet, but he said it'd be in that range. It wasn't real expensive to get it reconnected, but that would be done by the fire alarm people who are under contract, not the contractor.
We had put some money in the contract for doing the telephone and data wiring.
$7,000 is in there too. That's already been, y'all approved that already too. Again, that is done by somebody other than Richard Jones.
Questions for Chris? All right, are you ready to approve these plans?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to approve the stamped and signed drawings, meaning stamped and signed by architects and engineers, as was agreed prior to beginning any construction.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chris, thank you for getting that together. Realistically, is Richard thinking he can start fairly quick?
He's ready to go.
Okay,
So
good.
as soon as we get through here, I'll give him a call, and if he's not already over there, he's ready to start. He
Very
had
good.
an electrician over there Friday. We spent probably 2 hours looking at things. It's one of the things that we did not know when we started the project was there was so much stuff. I couldn't even see where the existing outlets were. And again, there are no as-built drawings on there, so there's no way to refer to that. So one of the advantages of going over there and after it's cleaned out, we can see where actual outlets were, and we'll move those around as necessary. Instead of putting in a new one, we'll reuse what's already there if we can, basically with the new walls. But we're basically getting a whole new electrical service put in there. That's the easiest way to do it. Instead of trying to track down where all the additions were and where all the lines went. So.
Okay, and you know what he needs in the way of a dumpster?
You just need the one, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Where are you going to place it? In the
It's in the parking lot where the staff was parking.
or the
Post office.
handicap parking area or handicap?
No, it's where Leonard would pull in there to the handicap ramp.
Okay.
There in the back.
Very good.
That would be out of the way of anybody parking in the county parking lot.
All right, let's move along to item number 8. Give us an update on the county regional contractors list.
I handed this out probably 5 or 6 months ago. It's been a continual update process. One of the biggest ads was working with McCoy's, and John, the manager at McCoy's, he had a contract with this that he handed me that we built upon. His numbers were no longer valid, but my goal is to keep a Titus County regional list of folks and add to it as we learn about it. I'm also handing these out back to the building suppliers, so Lowe's and McCoy's and Home Depot will get this list also, because they have a list, but it's outdated, as I've already confirmed. Half of the numbers that I called on the McCoy's list were no longer valid. Some of the contractors are not even working. My goal is to keep this updated as we can. The biggest value of this list is while we still advertise projects in the paper, our experience has been we get no response. I don't know why, I'm not even going to speculate why, but I do know that once I have somebody's email address, I email them a request for bids, which I did one for the computer center. I sent it out to 9. I had 2 callbacks saying they weren't interested, and I had 4 bids come in, and we'll get into the next agenda item. But the process of using modern technology and the digital and the emails does get a lot more response. It also allows them to get back to me a lot quicker and ask questions, or we have a change, which we did in a couple places on the computer room. We had the door, and so I could quickly get it out to everybody that was bidding, and they could include that in their bid. So when I got the bids in, I'm comparing apples to apples with everybody. So process is still ongoing. It's probably 50% bigger than it was last time I gave it to you. I will update it again. I welcome any ads that anybody wants to be on there. The biggest thing was making sure I had email addresses for folks. There's still a few contractors out there that don't have email addresses, but if they got a phone number, I call them directly and go forward on there. So
I see about everybody I know of on here. Some of these guys don't have, I mean, there's a lot of them that don't have emails on there. Is there something we can do for you as far as contacting some of these and asking for email addresses?
I would welcome anybody that can offer that and get that back to me. I've called several of them in the last few weeks and just tried sporadically to catch somebody on the phone and see, 1, if they were still interested, 2, what their services were, and 3, if they had an email address. Those that I've contacted, I don't want to go into specific names. Some don't want to do the work for the county. Some of them are too small. I even talked to one electrician who actually worked on the adult probation in the very early stages to do actually hook up a temporary power. But he's just a one-man shop, and he really doesn't want to do anything bigger than that. So part of the reason for this list is to kind of not limit how we contact people, but just understand what they're best suited for by their own admittance. You know, what do they want to do? And so I asked that question also. So yeah, if somebody has the time to make some more phone calls and try to get some of the missing information, whether it be an address or a prime contact or an email address, that would be very welcome.
I'll ask Carolyn to help with this. Maybe if you can.
She said it's possible. I know who's going to.
Well, this is something we can do over an extended period of time when we have when she has the time available. If you'll maybe mark up a copy and say, don't bother calling this person, I've already talked to them, or something like that, where we're not bothering them unnecessarily.
Well, and then the other use of this document that I would recommend is handing it out to all the contractors. Everybody that's on this list gets a copy of this. Everybody knows who everybody else is. It'll help them if they're trying to look for additional subs. One of the things that we found out when we first started this project is a lot of the subs, plumbers specifically, are very allegiant to a specific general contractor. And that general contractor doesn't want them working for anybody else. So that's a whole business thing, political thing that I don't get involved with, but I just want to put everybody's name out there that, hey, these people are out there. And they can do what they want with the list, but it's a list that does represent who's out there and who's working in the county.
Make the Chamber of Commerce aware of a list like that. I'm sure others would like to have all this information readily available.
Get Fox State on the list and go get some more members.
All right.
We don't need to vote on
No, it's a non-action item. Let's move on to number 9. Consider and possibly award bid for remodel of the computer room. Last couple of times we tried to do this, it was just going to cost more money than we had expected, and you were pretty confident you could get some better bids by tweaking those plans.
This is a rebid per the court's request. The last bids were in the $18,000 to $19,000 range. We went back and re-looked at. I had estimated this was going to probably now be $14,000, $15,000 with the ads that we had put in there. We sent it out to actually the 9 different general contractors on this list. 2 replied back and said they were either busy or they weren't interested. I got responses back from 4 by 4 on Saturday afternoon, which was the deadline. At 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, actually by 3, I had everybody's bids in. And you see those 4 bids there. Scott Redfern was at 15.2, D'Angelo Development at 15.8, Richard Jones at 18.9, and U Bryant Construction at 18.974 and some change. I'd recommend to the court that we award this to Scott Redfern. I've already let him know that he was the, what I call the apparent low bidder, but it was subject to approval by the court. Because he called me this morning on the way to court and might figure out where he was in this thing, if he needed to be here. The cost for construction covers what was in the drawings. The only add that we had on that contract was we are taking the district court reporter's storage room for for part of the work area for the computer room. What she has in there right now are 8 file cabinets, only which 3 drawers have anything in them. I've had discussions with her, and she was not aware that we were taking that room, but she was okay with it. We're going to actually move those file cabinets over. We are replacing her door on her office with a door with a window in it, because she's in kind of in a cave right now. So in taking her storage room, we are putting her a new door that has a window in it so that she can actually get some sunlight in from the outside. Because there's a window in the door coming into the annex from that side door. So that was an add of about $300 that was not in the original bid that got added into here, and everybody was okay with. The only additional cost, just in light of the court's interest in staying fully aware, there is one other cost that will be incurred on this project that I don't have a price on yet. I have a range, and that is the actual new computer rack. None of the contractors were comfortable buying that because it's a very specific item that the computer guys actually select. So Sean will actually have to pick out what he wants on that rack. The estimate that I got was somewhere between $600 and $1,000 for that rack. They will actually have the contractor will have the place ready to put those racks in, and then they'll put the rack in, and it will take 2 or 3 days for them to one by one change over the computer network so you don't lose any service anywhere in the county, and then the contractor will come back and finish up the project. But the actual cost of that computer rack is still not included in here right now because Sean still needs to pick out what he wants. And he was having some discussions about how much bigger it needed to be for the future. So that's still an open item on there, just for full disclosure of what I know about yet, but I don't know what the cost is yet. So I'm asking that the court consider and approve the award to Scott Redfern. He's immediately available to start work, and he said he could probably get it done in 3 to 4 weeks. He didn't know how long it was going to take to do the transfer over and to get but he didn't want to start the project until the computer rack was ordered and the door was in place. So things that he had to order that were kind of long-term items, he wanted to get those before he started the clock ticking. So as soon as he gives a go, we'll get this process started.
What kind of coordination effort with Sean and Cabro will be needed to begin this?
Sean to get the computer rack ordered that he wants, and then the time frame about when they want to get it ready, and that'll go work back with Scott when he's going to have that side of the room. He's going to basically replace the floor and do the 3 new outlets and the painting of the cabinets and stuff on that west wall. And as soon as he's got that done, then Sean can put in his new rack and start doing the transfer. Looks like there's no more wire needed because there's a lot of slack in there, and we'll just be able to transfer it over because they're only moving it from one side of the room to the other, which is about 6-7 feet.
So is that the first step rather than demoing out those 2 offices in the hallway?
Right. Yeah, because that wall that the rack is on right now is coming out. So we have to move the rack first before we take out that wall.
Is there any additional labor that you can see or that you can see in all that massive rewiring process that we're going to have to provide for Cabro?
You wouldn't have to pay us anything assuming the extended contract is agreed on. We had planned that in the contract already. As far as how much work's involved, these things can be, they can just be ever changing. You just don't know. What's most important is that
Okay.
the contractor, but get all the wires pulled that we need, like we discussed earlier, and then making sure everything's back up and online, because the sheriff's office is on 24/7. I want to see them done longer than they have to be. So I certainly don't want to see the rest of the county down, so we would work, for as long as it was required, but it wouldn't be any more cost to you guys from our perspective,
What did you have to scratch out of the original bid that came in at that $20,000 figure here, just so we'll know what we're not getting?
The original workstation was set up for like 5 or 6 different technicians to be able to work in different workstations. So it was an L-shaped counter. We went back to just an 11-foot counter with 3 workstations on it. There's a work table that we basically scaled down, and it's a 4x8 table now that's basically a storage unit. One of the things they have, there's a lot of the old towers that are just standing in the floor, and we're looking for a way to get those out of the floor and kind of clean it up. So the 4x8 work table will actually have doors on it and just be open space underneath instead of shelves and everything with no doors, just doors on either end so they can put those extra towers out of sight and out of mind kind of thing.
That's included in Scott's bid?
That is.
That 4x8?
It is. We also deleted the window in Sean's door. Yeah, we got a window in the wall overlooking the workspace, which was always there. We made it smaller. It's a 4x4 now. And we took the window, we're basically leaving Sean's office as is. So that was another thing. So we're not replacing any tile or, that's no need to, it's fine. And we're not replacing the door, so.
That's just a solid door that you can't
Yes.
see in or out?
That's correct.
Would there not be a significant advantage having a window in there?
Well, that will go over to the work area where we'll be doing most of our work anyway. That office would basically be just for basic phone calls and all that. So, one thing I did have a question about that I haven't seen in the most recent proposal is the electric. You have one circuit on one side of the wall, and the other one has a different circuit. We got to make sure we have enough power on that other wall to be able to handle all that hardware.
There are actually 2 panels, actually both of them in that room. And we're keeping all of those. We're not touching the electrical panels at all except to hook in the new circuit. There are spares in both of those. So it's something very, very simple to the electrician.
Those breakers are big enough to handle all that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's basically six new outlets going in. Three behind the computer rack and 3 on the workstation.
Do we have anything in the budget for this item this year? Yeah, I know we talked about it in contingency, but I don't think we knew enough about the final figure. I don't think we budgeted.
It's certainly to be handled out of contingency.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Chris? Anything else?
What was the whole total, Judge?
19 something?
What's the question?
What was the original total? 19 something? It was right at pushing 20.
It was like 19.8 if I remember right. I can go back and check, but.
That's okay.
You catch your rack and everything, you're looking 18,000, let's say, if it comes up to 800 instead
It was
of 1,000.
19,096.
Okay.
No, that didn't include the,
Rack.
well, it did include $800 in the rack. The base bid was 15,800 plus computer, rack, 800, network, hookup, 600, construction management. So it came in at about 19,000. So this one's about 1,000 below that, maybe 1,500 below that.
I thought we talked about was originally they were going to build a custom table of some sort that when we decided.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about, that 4x8 structure that wasn't.
That was going to be several $1,000. I think
That's right.
most of the savings.
Well, we just basically turned it into a work table, not a piece of cabinetry. And that significantly reduced that cost.
That doesn't really change anything as far as service is concerned. I mean, you've already got these tower servers, we just sit on that. Just that they're not on the floor, I think it's a big deal. So,
You don't think that there's not a problem, you don't know, there's not a problem with the computer being in that room all while all this construction's going on with dust or anything like that?
Yes, we'll have to be involved in that process to make sure that there's not too much dust and debris gets into that stuff.
Well, and the reason we've got it in phases is so we can actually put plastic across the area that's completed where they've moved it to, and then so the dust shouldn't hit the computer.
Okay, so with that computer rack, between $17,600 and $18,000.
Make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fields to approve this bid by Scott Redfern to remodel the computer room, including construction, contract administration, construction administration, and a new computer rack.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. I'm happy to work with Scott. I think he'll do us a good job. I know he will. All right, Chris, thank you. Item number 10, consider and possibly take action on, no, back up. No, we are there. I'm sorry. Consider and possibly take action on selection of IT services company. Refresh your memory, back a month ago we had Cabro, we had Daniel, and we had Curtis here. Kookaburra and Kookaburra Technology, and I've already forgotten the name of it. Absolute Technologies was Daniel's company. And just to refresh your memory, we had a fourth company there, AOS. AOS is the one that said, you know what, we really aren't in the business of providing you with the full service IT company, but we would like to participate with whoever you select at evaluating your security. But he said he didn't even want to provide a bid. We had Kookaburra Technology, that was Curtis Welch. Curtis is the one that came in with a pretty attractive number of $56,500 in the 2005 calendar year. Not actually calendar year, starts the end of February. And then in 2006, it took a slight drop. Then Absolute Technologies was considerably higher, at about $144,000. And then we have here your colored piece of paper here. Gives you, once again, Cabro's figures, which were broken down into option A and option B, and even option C, which included some add-on hardware. Jimmy, I don't even remember how much you were involved in this. Were you here at that meeting when those guys presented? So you may remember a little bit about this. So I provided each of you with all the names and contact information for the folks that were in this business. What would you like to do today?
Make a motion, we stay with Cabro.
Motion by Commissioner Fields. Let's be more specific here. Well, we can break this into a couple of different, let's break this into a couple of different components. The motion is to continue in contract with Cabro Technologies for 2 years, beginning when the current contract ends, which is it end of February or end of January? End of January, okay. All right.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton. All those in favor of accepting a continued contract relationship with Cabro Technologies for the next 24 months, beginning February 1, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Let's now discuss the specifics. Again,
The only thing that I would say is that when we talk a little bit about this option C, I would rather buy those
as you need them rather than
Department track. You have already prepaid for those this way. If it's included in the monthly price, it's going to be a little hard to track and be still owe.
in light of his concern there, is there any other plea you would like to make for doing that that would offset his concern?
First of all, we can provide serial numbers as soon as they come in if that's a concern. You do save a little more money if you go with C. It allows us not to have to sit with 20 boxes for, however many months until one goes in and sit them in the computer room, especially with all the construction stuff we have. We can go to our vendors, and instead of like an issue that we had before was, we'll order 20 machines at once and issue those out as we can throughout the year. But if you have a machine that sits in a box for even 6 weeks, we get it out and we're ready to install it, we run into a problem with it, then it's not easy for us to go back to the vendor and say, hey, we just need to swap out this machine. They say, well, that's the 30 days. Now you have to deal with the warranty, and so it's just a little bit less
I
headache.
understand that side. Just limited manpower, it's hard for us to track
Sure.
how many you bought this year. I'm not saying we can't do it, but it's easier as you go from our end. I understand what you're saying about it. And that's the way we've done it last couple of years. We bought 20.
You bought 21. And one other thing that we can do if it helps, and it makes no difference to us really, but if it helps, we can issue an invoice as soon as it's done to just show that it's paid. So you have an invoice number with the PO reference, and then from who it was approved from, and that way at the end of the year you can tally those up and know how many you got.
And the ones down at the bottom, I'm not sure how often those are in place. They're just like 1 or 2.
One thing that I should mention though is if you decide not to go with option C, we already have issues with the switching gear. We've been having connectivity issues.
We sure have. Well, I wanted you to address that in a minute, but let's finish this conversation, and we'll definitely focus. Explain for us again the benefits of opting in for option C on top of A and or B.
Okay, so what we have in option A is essentially everything that we've covered for the last few years, several years that we've been here. What you've been paying for in addition to that, so B is option A and B together. Okay, that 86 is everything combined. But what you were doing before was paying $75 an hour, which is outside of contract work.
We were buying blocks of time from you every quarter or so.
Yes, sir, for backups, for weekend support, for those types of things. And instead of doing that, what we did is we projected all of the changes that's going to be happening in construction, moving offices, of course, the computer room, and then we basically tallied all that and put that into option B and said, why pay $75 an hour when we can pay $29? That's just a much cheaper solution for you. If it's something that you're going to go ahead and buy anyway, it's just easier for you. It's less work on us, and we can just have basically free reign to take care of you as you need. Option C essentially just includes all of the hardware that we perceive that you will end up buying this year. Actually, over the next 2 years. So if you have, like currently you have a policy to buy 20 computers a year, what that essentially does is allows you to not have a machine in the county that's older than 5 years old, which is the average lifespan of hardware. So that keeps you up to date constantly, and we reuse those parts when we need it, and we recycle them as needed as well. So really option C is just the hardware added into option B. So C is A and B together with the hardware, and B is all of A, and then normally what you buy outside of contract anyway.
Yes, I mean, we budgeted for 20 computers, and it's budgeted. It's just that in the past, he's ordered from Siemens, okay? This way-
And here it kind of separates writing a check and getting a computer, or writing a check and getting 5 computers. And here it's just here it's just a monthly fixed amount that's not really tied to a set of machines.
Yes, what Sean will have to do is every month, at least monthly, he'll have to bring me a list of here's how many computers we bought and installed, so that we can keep it running track and make sure we get to our 20.
Get your 20, yes, sir.
Know where they're at. If he done his way, he'll have to provide me the numbers.
So that's not for
Right.
us.
Because otherwise you'll be paying, you might pay for 20 and maybe we only bought 17, and I'll be telling you, Sean, you owe us 3 more computers.
Well, he's going to be contractually obligated to provide us
Yes, sir.
with 20. He's going to be
Right.
contractually
But if he's
obligated.
only replacing them if it's needed, it's possible that in a particular year, we might get the office and only replace 17.
But you're not replacing them only as needed.
No, that's correct.
We're trying to stay ahead of the curve and replace them before they crash.
We just wouldn't order 20 once and said we may order 5. course, there's books on our too. We have to make sure all our numbers match up. We know where those systems are going, so I'm already doing the book work. It's basically a copy and paste on the invoice, so no big deal there.
Well, do you think that there's a way to provide what he needs when he needs it so that you alleviate his concern?
Sure, just if you want to.
Well, like I said, just every month you need, because, I mean, I won't be seeing invoices for that.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
I see, sure, but we can just make a separate line.
He's gonna need to bring me a sheet or something saying, we bought this,
Yes.
we installed this many computers this month so that I can take those off of the 20.
Yes, sir.
Because I won't get an invoice for that anymore. I won't see that.
How will you book that element of this contract? Which there you're buying hardware versus paying for services.
Well, I'll probably just I'll adjust the budget where the separate line item for those computers will go into his number because I'll be paying him, you know, a flat amount that includes that number every month.
What will really help too, I mean, you can also, instead of buying 20 once and you're thinking, well, where are they going, who's got to track up and whatnot, instead of just working with you that way, one way we can do that, we can issue a separate invoice for hardware and show you where it goes. So
Yeah.
you know where every machine goes at every time, and we'll just mark the invoice as a zero, so.
You'd be okay with that?
Yeah. I'll just try to.
Yes, sir.
And I may still sort it out separately because I do track those computers to the
Well, we did briefly discuss this last week. Now, if you'll go into that, part of the items here in this hardware package, we have an urgent need for, like yesterday. And explain what that is and what some of us may have been experiencing in the way of problems with the internet and how this is going to help us.
Essentially, what you have, of course, you see your 20 computers for hardware. Those other items that have the item quantity on 20 are just things that are related to those, like the office keys, your antivirus software that includes in that. The UPS battery backups, we have to replace every few years anyway, because that basically just keeps us from power surges, trying not to messing with the equipment, keeps us online or something, snaps off for a few seconds, comes back on in 30 minutes or whatever. That's something we end up replacing every few years anyway. The switches are really the bigger issue. We're seeing a kind of a pattern that started in the county attorney's office where they were having all kinds of connectivity issues, not being able to connect to certain printers, not being able to get on the internet fast enough, everything was slower in that office. And so we reduced it to these HP Pro switches that were installed all at one time about 5 or 6 years ago. And so what we're seeing is that one actually, we had it replaced and all of the issues were resolved. And then now we're having over the last month, and we can foresee this because some of these switch ports were dropping out one by one. We would have an issue, I know, with a couple of the offices, county clerk's office, and then with Carolyn, where she was having issues with her printer. And so we traced that line back into that closet where that switch is. And it turned out if we just moved that from one port to the other, everything started working again. And we plugged something back into that bad port, and it wouldn't work. So we're seeing a pattern here with these. I don't know if they were just a bad flaw, in the system for about 5 years they start going out, but we're seeing that consistently. And the downside of that is the county uses those switches in every office. So you have several at the annex building, you have several in the closet here, you have one downstairs, you have some in the JP offices, and you even have them in the sheriff's office. And so what we've done is basically try to draw a plan and say, we're going to need to replace these switches at some point over the next few years, most likely, if we keep going at the rate that we're going. But we're already aware of 3 switches we have to have replaced. So that's essentially what C also includes, is those switch replacements as well. And it's the same model, but it's the newer model of the same switch. If you wanted to go with something different, we could, but they're really at a low price rate for what all they do to give you good switches and how they're managed and all that. So that's effectively what those are.
Sean, my question on that would be, okay, I know at the top, there's the 20, we're doing that for both years.
Yes, sir.
The 311 down at the bottom, is that?
That is actually, because it's a 2-year contract, I basically, just like I did with the hours, sometimes there will be a month where we have to basically pay that money up front to buy even more switches. We'll probably have to replace all these switches by the end of this year. Again, we would handle that the same way we would with the desktop, where I send you that information in a separate
I
invoice.
guess my question is, am I going to have
Yes.
6 for 2 years?
You are.
And
Yes,
2
sir.
and 2 now?
Absolutely.
So I'll have to- And then this 105,677,
Yes, sir.
is that
That's
per
a
year?
Per year.
That's per
With
year.
the hardware, yeah. so that effectively provides 40 machines with the related software, 6 battery backups, and 4 switches. You got 2 24-port and 2 48-port.
I'm not sure, Brian, how much of that is in the budget. I mean, I know the 5075, that is. I know the computers, the 20 computers times however many, that's in the budget. Some part of the $75 charge that determined on special items is in the budget, because I looked at it last year and put that estimate in there, but I don't know if that's up to $106. Pull some more money out of contingency to cover whatever the difference is there.
Yeah.
That 86 represents roughly what we spent this past year or 2 years.
You spent 86, you spent well over 86 this last year. So,
Not counting computers, or does that include?
not counting computers, yeah. Yeah, because you have.
I should be close to that, because I will budget based on the prior year. Generally.
A lot of requests on hours, show hours, and making changes on the website. Just routine maintenance.
I know one big thing we have with the sheriff's office, that was not usual.
Sheriff's office.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we always have things with the sheriff's office. I know that we got a call last year, it was Christmas Eve or Ginger, he called us and we could go and try to help us with stuff. And fortunately, we can do a lot of stuff remotely, which saves you a lot of time. But when you're paying $75 an hour, we just didn't see any reason to be doing that with the court. When we're still using these services every year, the last 3 years, why not then roll in?
Well, I mean, the one particular item in the sheriff's office.
Oh,
last year
I know what you're referring to. That's true. There was
weekend, something broke down, USB.
Yeah, that was a big, several $1,000s.
Yes.
the power outage basically blew a bunch of switches, and so we had a lot of weekend work involved. Those kind of emergency.
You also added on at least one more department, district judge's office, is that-
Judge's office and Gilbert's office as well.
which were not included. We've
They're
not
included in the original contract, but we'll be adding those, to the meetings option.
Okay. So now as a secondary item that I'd like some guidance on, option A or option B and option C.
Who was handling Gilbert's office?
He has a guy that he works with, I think he's a pilot, a nice guy named Jonathan. He comes over and does some things. Basically, the reason we got these offices is because they're already under the retirement network. And we thought, well, we're already supporting, it's not going to be much more money on us or y'all to have them added in, so we take care of the services.
But I don't remember paying for that.
I don't know where you guys work from. I just know I work with them. I really don't choose.
I doubt if there was much, because I know multiple times he called Sean for help.
Well, maybe we can get them to give us back wood. I mean, we're going to pick up their report form. They get some state money, I'm assuming.
Well, that's what I was fixing to ask. Can we check on that and see if there's some funds there from the
I mean,
state?
if he's got it in his budget anyway, we're going to pick up hand for it. We might ask him to reimburse us for their fees.
I'll sure ask him, yeah.
I will have to
I
ask.
have much here, I don't know how much.
I don't know how much as far as the numbers are concerned, but I do know how your infrastructure is and how he has a separate switch that manages that office that Jonathan set up. So I'll need to get with Jonathan if that's the case and just, I'll have to get credentials to get in and be able to manage that. I don't know how he wants to continue that relationship or not. I don't see any point in it.
What was the other office that we were picking up? That you had to do?
The district manager's office.
So who was doing that?
Nobody. We essentially, back early last year, we had some things in there go on. And so instead of coming in and billing the court, we just used some web hours according to the judge's permission to be able to take care of some small things that he had. But he really tried not to call unless there was a major problem. So he just kind of sit and wait.
Well, they were having additional funds, but the relation may have some.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion we accept option C.
Okay,
Wait a
Sean,
minute.
does option C include A and B? It's just tiered, and they're all three added together with option C.
That allows us 60 hours per week, roughly 2,880 hours per year, plus the hardware that we discussed for the next 2 years.
What about option C? We could change our minds on some of that equipment. I mean, things could happen. That's a hard thing for me to say for 2 years.
If you wanted to change your policy on the hardware, I'd be more than willing to work with the board and say, hey, let's just pull off the hardware for this next year.
Why do we even need it in there? I mean, I don't. That's a ever-changing item. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it says Windows 7. We may change your mind before 2 years is up. You know what I mean? We may want Windows 9. They have a new and a new stuff. You know, there's a. Okay. Well, he's already made the motion, but I would recommend we. I don't know why we need to put a contract in there on that. I mean, we're going to need it, no question, but I don't know why it's got to be included in our agreement, because that's going to change. Surely, I'll bet money it does. Not very much.
The only reason we include it is because we have a policy to purchase 20 machines every year. And then with the other stuff, is imminent hardware replacement we have to have now. I mean, we know that we have to have at least 2 switches right now, so if the board decides we want to go with option B, then it needs to turn around and consider, hey, we need to go ahead and buy 2 switches and some better backup. Those are failed.
We could do that anytime, though, couldn't we?
You could do that anytime, but I guess the point is you have to do some of it now if you want, unless you want to just leave the systems as they are, in which case you have
No. I think we've already said we want to try to change 20 of them a year.
Yes, sir.
That's already been agreed to.
Well, and it does save you some money because it's less work on our end to have to go, and so of course everybody knows time and money.
Wait a minute. How can it save you money? Say that again?
It ends up saving us money as well, so we can turn around and save you some money on those machines if you do a plan like this, rather than us having to prepare them every time and then come into court and say, hey, would you like to consider these, the time involved with that, and then we have to go do a recircular inventory again. There's just a lot more work involved, that's all it is. So,
Oh, we've already approved 20 of them a year.
okay.
That's my understanding. I think we have. Carl?
We have.
We have.
We have.
That's what we're talking about. I mean, the money's in there one way or another. Just, the way we've done in the past, he's bought 20 at one time, he may not install 20 at one time. This way, he's just.
This gives us a little more savings if we contract it so that you know what to plan for. But if a change came along, and a major hardware change, or Windows 9 comes along and it results in a price increase, I trust you'll bring it back to us and chart it out for us and show us, hey, you agreed to this, you contracted for this, prices have changed. I can continue to supply you with those older machines. If you want to make this recommended change, it's going to add, $40 to each machine or whatever.
Actually, the way that usually the price structure works with computers, there's always peak times, of course, school year and stuff like that. The one thing that another benefit of option C is that we're not going to buy old hardware. If for the same money we can get a machine that's Windows 10 because they're getting rid of 9, they decide, hey, we're going to move to Windows 10. It's great. It's wonderful. It's going to come with 16 gigs of RAM, all that stuff. It's the same money. That's what we're giving you. When you have better equipment here, that allows us to do our job more efficiently anyway. So we're not going to give you old hardware. It's not going to save us any money. Usually, buying retroactively ends up costing more.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, you made a motion by Commissioner Hinton to go with option C.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. Any further discussion? All in favor of going with option C, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4 aye and 1 nay. Thank you very much. We look forward to another couple of years, and we appreciate the work you put into this, and thank you, commissioners, for your study on that issue.
It's okay if the court officer just sit right here and keep on one thing. It'd be a lot easier for me to sit here than go on the video.
I would like to go back to security and stuff, and I know everything's worked well. I know I got a call from you the other day, and they had a virus
Yes, sir.
on my personal computer where I take care of county business and stuff, so we're up to date on all that.
Absolutely. We essentially had a virus emailed into the county that was mitigated and remedied within 2 2 hours, we now know exactly where the email came from. Anytime it now goes out or comes in, it's now blocked. It was just, an email that came in that got opened on a particular machine and then started spreading over to the virus quick enough that didn't do any damage to the county. Certainly, and it was a small time virus, it was just to slow the machine down, it wasn't spread at all. So it's been
And that's what you run into, is start slowing those machines down when you
Yes,
start getting those viruses.
yes. If it was a much bigger threat, like financial act or something like that, then your new gen systems would pick it up anyway. So this was just through an email, that's all it was, and it was small, it wasn't a big deal, it was handled and resolved within 4 hours.
All right, item number 11, consider and possibly approve development of a set of subdivision and plat regulations. This is the third meeting that we have talked about this subject. You'll remember about a month ago we had Walt Sears here explaining the reasoning behind the need or his recommended change to our subdivision regulations, which we don't have a real good set. We don't have a set at all. We have a hodgepodge of pieced together components that have occurred over the last 20 years, but we don't have a real good set of stapled pieces of paper that you could give out to a developer where he could have a real good, clear idea of what the demands were that were going to be made of him. Now, you'll remember that Judy Kent has been here and has expressed some concerns over this document. Judy was nice enough to put together a group of realtors last Thursday, and I was able to meet with them for lunch for a couple of hours, and they expressed their concerns. And the fact of the matter is, this document does have quite a few things in here that are of a concern to many of these realtors, some of whom are developers, and I'm in total agreement with that. I do not believe that this document in its present form is a good document for us. And I even believe that Morris County probably passed this without really knowing the implications and the future impact or potential impact of this document on doing business within their county. That said, what do? Tell Walt and Morris County, sorry, but we can't do it? Not necessarily. I believe, and Judy, I'm going to give you a second to speak to this in a minute and correct me if I'm wrong, what came out of that meeting was a willingness on the part of these realtors, and they want to have a good set of subdivision regulations that they can count on and that their customers can count on. But it needs to be a set that is reasonable, that works well for the county and does not prohibit business. There's some items in this document here that would probably keep some developers from wanting to develop neighborhoods or even other kinds of developments. And that's certainly not what we want to do. We want it to be done in a planned, orderly process, but we certainly don't want to make it so onerous where we eliminate profit potential for these developers and these realtors. And the realtors expressed a willingness to perhaps participate with the county in the cost of reworking this document or coming up with a new document that would eliminate, change, or otherwise modify the attributes of this document where we could accomplish, one, a document that would be helpful to the county and to realtors and to developers, and one that hopefully would be signed off on by the state of Texas and would still pass as far as satisfying their minimum requirements for having a subdivision and plat regulation in place. I have not had a chance to visit with Walt about this. He was in Austin Friday and Saturday with Region C and D, but I'm going to share my same thoughts there. So what I'm maybe suggesting here is, and I don't want to cut this discussion short, is that we join efforts with these realtors and developers in coming up with a document, getting someone who is capable of getting input from realtors and developers to fix this document. Judy, would you like to add to that anything? And if you would, come up here so we can get you on the record.
much in agreement with everything you're saying, except I'm a little worried about them stepping out and saying that, the realtors would help pay for this. They're talking about our local board that covers 4 counties. So
Well, correct me. I'm not sure exactly what that group was that would be
that's what
perhaps
they were
willing.
speaking for our board, and I'm vice president on the board, and I just don't know that you're covering 4 counties and the board's going to pay for something that is only in 1 county. So that was I was real iffy when everybody was speaking. Yeah, we'll help pay for this.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's a fact, but I'm sure.
And we
all
won't
of them
decide. We won't decide that today. We'll
Right.
put our heads together and
Right.
decide. I don't even know what it's going to cost, and probably neither do you, to have someone that would spend the time doing that.
To me, it's getting all of them to put their critiques on this one, and then just putting it together. It might not be that difficult of a job. It really might not. So then we could present it to y'all, and then y'all could decide, if it's something you want to pass or something that still needs work. But I mean, we were all individually marking up the copies we had. So to me, it's something that if we just put them all together, that we might could come up with a document using this as a base to go from, and then just trimming it down or adding to it. It might not be that big of an issue. And then presenting y'all with what they come up with.
Would that be something that we should sit here and maybe give you all a few weeks to work on? Or what do you see as being the next step?
Yeah, I would say that. Give us 6 weeks or something. Walt said there was no hurry, and certainly they've been trying to get this convenience store on that corner forever. So I don't see that there's a hurry with it. But yeah, to give them a deadline to make sure they comply, because realtors are real good about putting things off. So yeah, and I can bring it up and stay on them about it. Our next board meeting is not until March, so it's not something that I can wait and put before the board. But I can certainly stay on them and tell them what y'all have decided, and ask them, would y'all mind marking up your restrictions and letting us coagulate them?
That's fine. And at some point, I would, rather than just a long list of we don't like this, I would like to move towards somebody actually sitting down and taking the time, several hours.
That's what I thought I would be doing. I would be taking what each one of the realtors hands me and coming up with a single document.
And if you find that you need to hire some help in order to do that, I think I would recommend to the commissioners that we, commit to that cost, to, or at least to participate in that, to come up with a document that we were all happy with, that we could then hope will satisfy Morris County's needs.
Well, I personally think this is something that needed to be done a long time ago.
Yeah, it'd be
But trying
great.
to get people together to get it done, with Walt involved in this, and we need to kind of see what direction we need to go, but what's good for our county. But at the same time, we still want to help our neighboring counties and also help develop the water system in Titus County. Because when you develop water, you're going to have homes built, and there's your tax base.
It'd be a great idea for someone who wants to develop, who's not used to developing, that you have a set to hand them and say, this is what you'll have to comply with. That'd be a great thing. I don't like added regulations. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we have so much going on out in the county, is because they don't have to comply with what's on the city regulations, or ours are a lot looser here than maybe in Greenville or Rockwall, and maybe that's why we have some of the traffic and some of the people we've got out here. But so I'm not for a bunch of regulations, but to give them guidelines that we expect them to go by without putting too many extra regulations on them, I think it's great.
But at the same time, there are folks out there who might call themselves developers who really have no business developing, and the final product they end up with is something that neither you nor I or anybody in this room is very proud of. And that's the one where we want to kind of
We don't have a lot
better
of that.
define it.
What we might have more of is people having not done it before, stepping out there and doing all the things they think they have to do, and then the development not working, and then
overdoing it.
Yeah, overdoing it. So yeah, you could have both sides of it.
All right.
Y'all want to give me a time limit for the realtors or something like that? I'd be happy to try to, the ones that showed up
Well,
for the
you
meeting.
tell me, what do you think is reasonable to have our next discussion?
I like to hit them with it while it's fresh on their minds. So, I could tell them I need.
Revisit once again the first meeting in February, 4 weeks. May not have a final product, but at least you could maybe give us an update, and if there was a need that you had
I can shoot
for
for that.
assistance.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, an update in the first.
1st of January. 1st of February.
March is not, we're about 6 weeks away.
But we'd be presenting it to the realtors in March, and getting any action out of them is probably, on further down the road. Is why I was thinking going ahead and going with the ones that showed up. When this first came on the docket here, I called them all. I called every company here in town, and you saw we ended up with 3 of us here. And so then when I brought it before this group here, I called everyone I knew that had worked with subdivisions. A lot of realtors are not confronted with it, have not ever been confronted with it, and wouldn't even know what to comment. So I contacted those. What did we have? 6?
Yeah, James Arledge, Diana Kennedy, you had Mitch Maven, Michael Maven,
Pat
Redfern, yourself.
Right. That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah. So, we all discussed it. They've all read over it. They're all concerned about it. So I don't mind working with that core group that showed up for that meeting.
Yeah, got a lot of experience in development in that group.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you again.
Judge, I'll make a motion that you come back in 4 weeks to just give us an update. Also, if there's going to be some costs there,
Maybe we'll have a better idea of that. At the
if you
next
give us an idea of what kind of costs there that we need to help get this done, I sure don't have a problem with it. I'll make that into a motion.
Okay, motion by Mike Fields to table this item for 4 weeks till the February meeting. All right, second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Item number 12, consider and possibly approve a resolution to add optional workers' compensation coverage for election workers. We've had this on the agenda a couple of times and have had some extensive discussion about this. And although he is not here, I asked Todd Kiesel, who is representing Titus County on behalf of Texas Association of Counties. I explained the situation we were in, and none of us really knew what all the facts and implications were of having this kind of coverage or not having this. So please allow me to read this response from Todd that he sent to me here about 2 weeks ago. Good morning, Judge. Without the endorsement, he's meaning if you opt not to cover your election workers, without the endorsement, the county does not have any coverage if a claim were filed by an election worker if injured while performing work duties. The general liability coverage would provide coverage if a citizen slips and falls, but if a citizen is employed by the county working as an election worker, they would be considered an employee, and the workers' compensation coverage would need to respond because they are employed, but only if the county has the election worker endorsement. Without the endorsement, no existing coverage would respond. Please let me know if you need more information. So, that was what we were unsure of at the time. I guess there were several things we were unsure of, but we were wondering if our liability coverage might step in on a claim such as this. So again, election workers, you've got them working at various points throughout the county. You typically have maybe an older crowd that's working the elections. They're traveling, they're working at night, and sometimes carrying equipment. Is there an opportunity or a possibility for an injury? I think we would all agree that there is. So, that being said, Sue, would you like to address this? You've asked to speak on this item.
Yes, the last time I was here and made some remarks regarding workers' comp for election workers, it became clear to me after my comments that this was sort of a loosely applied term. I'm still not sure about that because there is a group of election workers that work maybe close to 100 hours in early elections, and they in fact get W-2s and 1099s for them. But the election workers that work on election day do not get those kinds of things, as far as I'm aware of. They get paid, but they don't file any. We don't file any 1099s or W-2s on them. So I thought, well, are we talking about the same thing? Are we talking about covering all election workers, the ones that work 2 weeks prior to the election, the ones that are working on election day only? And I thought, why are we even considering that? I mean, there is the assumption of risk. We get up in the morning, there's an assumption of risk, so we have our own personal insurance. When you go to work for someone, there's an assumption of risk, and you're willing to work for that employer knowing of all the heavy equipment they're going to be dealing with or the dangerous machines they're going to have to run with. But in our case, I mean, they don't even have scissors and knives. Yeah, they could fall on the floor, but that's part of the assumption of risk of just living every day. To me, you're right that the $100 is not the issue. It's sort of a precedent that's being set. To me, it's saying to the taxpayer, we just have an open wallet, and I just don't see the point of it. So that's my opinion.
I did discuss this issue with John Mark Coburn, and I happened to discuss it with Kerry Wooten, who deals in civic matters. Both of them, without hesitation, said absolutely that's a no-brainer. That's essentially what they said.
No-brainer, meaning what?
Meaning you need to provide that coverage with the low cost that it is. It's good insurance.
All election workers. Is that what you're saying?
Those that are employees.
Well, I mean, anybody that's getting paid.
1099.
Is we don't have insurance, unless they work 100 hours a year.
So it's everybody.
That's right. I don't have to issue 1099 unless they get a fund. That's why a lot of it's just work the day of the election. But they are being paid. So they're driving a box on the cookbook over here in the building, and they read it. And we would be liable for that coverage, and liability coverage along with coverage.
I think you're only liable when somebody sues you. I mean, there's not an automatic if we didn't have work comp in place, are they going to say, you know what, I just slipped and fell, that was my own fault, I goofed up? Yeah, maybe they would. On the other hand, is there a possibility that they trip coming into our building and it's clearly, not necessarily negligence, but it could be deemed to be on our property, and they would have the ability. Anybody can sue anybody, but if they were to sue us, our work comp steps in and provides everything that we need.
That's not exactly right. What work comps, if we do have work comp on them, the proof of negligence is less. In other words, in the beginning, work comps helps handles the case if somebody files a claim against us. If we opt out or don't have work comp, our proof is nobody helps us. In other words, it's easier for them to sue it. It's easier for one of these guys that advertise on the road, did a truck hit you? Call Joe, Tim Blair, whatever his name is, and we'll represent you in a case. If you have workman's comp, they handle it to start with, but they still can continue on and sue us. The liability would have to kick in, but the proof, we have to have less proof that we're negligent if we do have work comp. That would be the advantage of having it. Not having it, we're more liable. The thing, I've been sued. I have a company. I had work comp. I've been sued by somebody that was collecting work comp. But luckily, I never did pay a big claim, have a big claim, but that's the difference of having it or not having it. You're still got the liability if they pursue it. It's just more difficult for them to prove you were negligent if you have workman's comp. And then the early beginning, the first claim, the work comp's insurance, lawyers handle it, and we don't have to. That's the big advantage, and that's really the only advantage. I mean, a lot of companies opt out of workman's comp altogether. They don't have workman's comp, and you have that in the state of Texas. You can do that. So those are the facts, and so it's not.
What's your opinion on this matter?
I don't know. I'm not strong either way. I don't think that. If we got the fees are $125, $150.
Well, it was $103 last year in a heavy election year.
And that's when you only count people that get a 1099.
I think we have to count everybody.
Well, the primaries are paid by the Republican Party or the Democrat Party.
Well,
Go ahead.
There's early elections are paid for by the county. The election day is paid for by the party.
I got you.
Say that again, please.
I'm sorry?
Would you say that again, please?
Early elections, the 2 weeks prior to an election, are paid for by the county in both the primary and in the general election. In the primary election cycle, on election day, the parties pay for the election workers.
If they have enough money.
They
Pay.
always have enough money, Mike. I know you started that discussion before. But between the contributions that are made by the candidates and whatever, the parties, Democratic, Republican, and then the Secretary of State, they get paid. And that's what I'm saying. And it's not the county's responsibility. There are counties that contract with an election administrator to take care of that. And I think Norman does. Does the Democratic Party contract to pay their workers, Norma? Or do you pay them, for instance? You contract with Leonard to pay your workers. I pay
you're
them.
right, objection.
Yes. So that's the decision.
Hers would probably
Yeah.
still be covered by our workers' comp, because we're by check.
Okay.
Yeah. You pay your workers, you write the checks for your workers on election day for the primary.
On Friday, okay, so those are not.
In the general, that's not our ability, we're out of it.
We pay for the early,
And,
we pay for the.
and the election day, that's right.
Is it a cost to you if you have anybody that you give a 1099 or a W-2? It's probably not a record-keeping problem. You already have to keep that.
Yeah, I keep it anyway, it's kind of a problem.
So to add that thing, what is a percentage? Do you know what it would be? Would it cover under clerks or?
Yes, it's covered at the lowest
Rate there is?
clerical rate.
There are only about 10 people, I would imagine, in that early election that get paid that way.
No,
That earn maybe $1,000, they work maybe 100 hours during that period of time.
yeah, there's not very many people, yes.
Right.
Well, I know we have 7 churches that hold elections out there.
It doesn't have to do with the churches. It's all of the people go to early election at the election administrator's office. And those people.
Well, I understand that the early election, but on election day, you have all those election officials out there working. You'll have around 60.
Election day, yes.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion we approve the resolution.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hinton to take advantage of and utilize the optional workers' comp coverage for election workers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 13, consider and possibly approve the renewal of a $25,000 letter of credit on behalf of the Texas Railroad Commission. And along with that, continue to have Carl and Cheryl sign on behalf of the county. This is a letter of credit that we are required to have from the Texas Railroad Commission. We renew this each year, and it's that time again here. We're a little ahead this year. I think it's due this filing by the end of February. Guarantee Bank has all of our paperwork, and they are simply awaiting on Commissioners Court approval to renew this letter of credit.
Judge, I make a motion to approve renewal.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton and second by Commissioner Fields to renew this letter of credit. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 14, consider and possibly approve payment of a pauper's funeral for Linda Sherwood in the amount of $950. I have the information and the request here, and I have discussed this situation with the social worker as well as the funeral home, and this is a legitimate need for a pauper's funeral.
Judge, I also like to make a motion to approve pauper's funeral.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hinton's made the motion. Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval on this pauper's funeral for Linda Sherwood in the amount of $950, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 15, consider and possibly approve bonds for elected officials taking office on January the 1st, 2015. This is something we do each time there is a new election, so I guess every couple of years we do this. I just need you all to approve these bonds that have been purchased and provided.
So moved, Judge.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton. I'll second that. All those in favor of approval of these bonds say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item number 16, discuss and possibly take action on court meeting times for 2015. Commissioner Riddle asked me to put this on there. This was a discussion we had late in the year, and so we'll pick it up again.
I would make a motion that we have them all at night, but let me tell you, I took the records that we had, and you had stated last time we had the same amount of people in the daytime we did at night last year from January through October. And I took the minutes and the attendance, and some people didn't sign in, of course, that I know were here at some of those. And I tried to take out like Furman Office Supply. They were trying to sell us office desk. They had a couple of people here, and another supplier out of Longview to have another keep. I tried to take those names off as much as I could, if I give them the benefit of the doubt. And the total was for those meetings in attendance. I noticed that on your deal you took off candidates. I didn't take off candidates. But anyway, we had 134 at the night meetings and 98 at the day meetings, if you doing it the way I did it. You took off and if I'd have taken them off, but the percentage is probably about the same, about 30% more, and yours was 70 and 90 or something, but the percentages are real close. And I know that I missed some. But
Yeah, all we can do is go based upon who actually signed in. That's the only record that we have. And the only thing that I did that was different from you is I removed candidates, those that were here for a particular purpose, as opposed to trying to narrow it down to just the general public. And I came up with a list of 20 people that attended 3 or more meetings total during the year. Now again, if we missed some because somebody didn't sign in, that's definitely a possibility, whether it was morning or night. But 20 people came 3 times or more. And your figures were what, 130 something that attended a night meeting?
Yeah, and 98 in a day, 134 in a
day.
day, about 30% almost.
Yeah. So, the nighttime meeting definitely edged out the daytime meeting. Reality is it's a fairly small group of dedicated attendees that we're grateful for. And so Commissioner Riddle has made a motion. Did you make a motion that we have all meetings at night? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Second by Jimmy Parker to have all Commissioners Court meetings at night. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Nay?
Nay.
Okay, that's a 3-2 vote. Anybody want to give it a different angle?
Well, Judge, I want to bring out some things that I brought out last time. I wanted to make sure my position, having regular Commissioners Court meeting at night, is clear. My position remains the same as when it was first discussed. My concern for night meetings were that they would be counterproductive for a number of reasons, including opening bids, consulting with businesses or vendors who would not be in the office at night, those who could not drive at night, etc. When the court decided to meet at night on a trial basis, I suggested that these night meetings be scheduled during the month of daylight savings time. However, the vote was to have one night meeting each month. At the time, I had several people in my precinct who told me they could not attend if it required night driving. On the other hand, I did not have I have not had one person in my precinct to tell me that they wanted or needed meetings at night. I checked for our Texas counties and have not found any that have Commissioners Court meetings at night. During our trial period, I did not see any evidence of increased attendance or attendance by different groups of people at night to indicate these meetings were effective or necessary. I am in favor of scheduling those meetings at night as well as morning during daylight savings time, where people that cannot drive at night can try to be here. Now, when you have your all-night meetings, which that was voted down, I don't have a problem with the night meetings as long as people that want to try to come at night, if it's daylight saving times. I know Norma has this problem, especially when it starts early. And when it starts getting dark, she has to leave. She's not able to stay here for the full Commissioners Court meeting. And there's other people that says, well, I don't drive at night and I'm not coming up here. And I've checked with other counties, and I'm going to continue to check. I have not found one county, and I've probably talked to 25 to 30 commissioners of different counties, hadn't found one county yet that has a night meeting. I do think it's very important. If you look back on this list, a lot of meetings at night where we had large crowds was during our budget hearing. And we have two budget hearings. We have one in the daytime and we have one at night. And I think it is very important where people can come day or night during the budget hearing. But that's my stance on it.
Could I ask a question?
Okay.
Once a month, the Democrats have a meeting at the Catfish King. Mrs. Nairmore don't come to those?
You'll have to ask Ms. Nairmore.
I thought you couldn't drive tonight. I just...
Making a motion there.
Well, I'm making a motion. I would like to see us have our night meetings when we have the daylights. When it goes, daylight saving time starts, that enables our people that's not able to drive at night to be able to come. And if we need to move something up on the agenda, we can move it up. But during the daylight saving time, then we don't have daylight savings time, just have the day meetings. And I'll make that into a motion.
So you're talking about, let's define that, you're talking about November, December, January, February?
Right. And then go back to your once a month. Your first meeting will be at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the second meeting will be at 6 o'clock at night.
So in November, December, January, February, you have all daytime meetings.
Right.
The remaining 8 months, you have one day meeting and one night meeting.
That's correct.
Okay, that's the motion. Not at this time. Anybody want to second that? Otherwise, it's going to die for lack of a second. All right. It appears that this will die for lack of a second. So anybody else want to throw a idea out?
Ryan, I'd like to see us do the year-round one morning meeting, one night meeting, and I'll put that in form of a motion.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Parker to continue.
I'll second it.
The pattern of first meeting of the month in the morning
Is that okay? Second meeting of the month in the evening. And may I suggest you add to that that our budget hearings and tax rate hearings be divided as equally as we can make them?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's the motion. And did I hear a second? Do you want to put a time frame on this?
As far as meeting time?
No, as far as how is this forever and ever till we bring it up again for the calendar year? You know, we were questioned last year as to how long was this good for?
I would say until it's brought up again.
Okay. All right. Everybody clear on that motion?
What was it? No.
He's just saying, he's not defining this just for the calendar year 2015.
Yeah.
Until somebody wants to bring this vote up again, leave it with a split day, night meeting. I have a motion. I have a second by Commissioner Riddle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
We have two oppositions. Okay, we will continue this current pattern, and that means that the January meeting, which will be 2 weeks from today, will be a nighttime meeting. Okay. All right, let's move on to item number 17, consider and possibly approve travel and seminar. I've got a copy of that. More travel. Okay, this first item is a request by Commissioner Fields, Commissioner Hinton, Commissioner Parker. This will be to attend the County Commissioners V.G. Young Institute of County Government in Austin, February 17, 18, and 19. Commissioner Fields is requested to leave on the day before the conference begins on February 16th. We've already approved the $195 registration fee. He's asking for per diem in the amount of $140, which would be 3 full days plus 1 half day for travel on that Monday. Hotel of $198.72, taking a personal vehicle and traveling about 665 miles for a total request of $916.10. Commissioner Hinton's is very similar. The hotel is $434.70. I believe that was the discounted cost of staying there in the event hotel, and Commissioner Fields was staying off-site. $1,119.30. Commissioner Parker, looks to me to be nearly identical. He's got the cost of registration, $140 per diem, $434.70 for the hotel, and 644 miles round trip, $965 there.
It's a different meeting, isn't it?
What's that?
Is that a different meeting?
No, it's the same meeting.
Okay.
I'm just looking as to why one's different. It looks like Commissioner Hinton included his cost of registration in there, which we had already approved.
That was already taken care of, wasn't
It's
it?
already paid.
So you might remember to do that so we can approve you the next trip or the next meeting. Next item is Joan Newman, County Clerk, would like to request to attend the 2015 County and District Clerks Association of Texas Educational Roundup in San Marcos, January 20, 21, 22, 23, traveling on the 19th and the 23rd, $175 registration, $180 per diem, that's 4.5 days, $332 for plus taxes for hotel, taking a personal vehicle, about 692-mile round trip, appears to be $1,084.90 plus hotel taxes. Luann Rollins, our extension agent, requests to go to FCS Tri-State Proficiency Development Summit in Texarkana on the 18th, 19th, and 20th. Looks like she'll be traveling but staying 2 nights, but I'll be sharing a room with you, and the other agent will pay for night number 2. So that was $140 registration, $60 worth of meals, $83 for hotel, $288 total cost. These last 2 are from Sheriff Ingram. Ashlyn Lesher, dispatcher, would like to send her to TCIC/NCIC full access course number 3802 in Mount Vernon on the 29th and 30th. Looks like there's no cost involved in this other than taking a county vehicle. Also from Sheriff Ingram, I'd like to send Tracy Hayes to civil processing training at the Collin County Training Academy in McKinney on February 9th and 10th. $40 registration, no meals cost, is that right?
Well, there should be $20 later.
Okay, cost of meals not to exceed $20, so you're going to claim actual in this case since he's not staying overnight, and taking a county vehicle, cost of fuel on that. So cost of registration, whatever his actual meal cost is, not to exceed $20, and the cost of fuel. That's all I've got.
That's one thing you might note on there, I think I saw John, of course, he actually calculated the rates, whatever they are, but I think she got 57 cents, and the rate is 56. Whatever the IRS rate is, 2015. Whatever it is.
Trying to cheat us, Joan? Okay, the new rate is 56 cents. 56, is that? Okay. Did they change it multiple times during the year, like with this recent gas going down? Okay.
They have done it before, it raised it.
It should go. Like that motion, Judge.
Okay. Okay. All right. And they always attempt to at least give us a total. We asked for a grand total, so they make their best attempt, but we know that you will override whatever that is based on their actual miles times whatever the current rate is. So just as a review, Luann Rollins, our extension agent, Joan Newman, 3 commissioners, and Tracy Hayes, warrant officer, and then one of the dispatchers. Motion by Commissioner Fields.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item number 18, approve oral and written reports.
I make a motion to approve written reports.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to approve the oral and written reports.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 19, consider and possibly approve our treasurer's report.
Thank you, man. Make a motion to approve treasurer's report.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton. I'll second that. All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 20. Tell you what, I'll come back to budget amendments. Item number 21, sign pay orders and approve payments.
Make a motion we pay our bills.
Motion by Commissioner Fields to
Second.
pay those outstanding bills, and second by Commissioner Hinton. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, call. So I just need, unless he's got no amendments, but I don't know. Okay. Now let's give him a second. Carl, we're ready for budget amendments whenever you are. Okay, don't have any? Okay, before we go to closing comments, I just wanted to recognize the first meeting for our new commissioner, Jimmy Parker. Welcome. Look forward to working with you. Appreciate your valued input here. And all of us make ourselves available to you if you want to discuss any of these items at any time. Okay. Secondly, I'd like to recognize Marcia Davis. Marcia joins us from the Tribune. Congratulations on your new position over there. We've worked with you before, and we're glad to have you back. It's good to see you again.
Yes.
I have 5 tickets for the Chamber banquet tomorrow night that Faustine brought for myself and for the commissioners. There's no assumption made by me that these are free. I plan to pay for mine, and I'm not sure how much they are, to tell you the truth, but she wanted to be sure that she didn't sell this out before giving you an opportunity. So I think it would be wonderful for as many of us to attend as possible. Come single, bring your spouse, whatever you would like. You'll probably need an additional ticket if you want to bring your wife. I'm going to hang on to these, and please let me know as soon as possible, because I would like to be able to return these to her if we do not have enough people to use them all. 5 tickets, Chamber Banquet, that's tomorrow night, and that begins at 5:30 p.m., of course, at the Civic Center. Baxter Black will be speaking. Okay, thank you once again for bearing with us in a lengthy Commissioners Court meeting. We had a lot of important stuff to discuss, and I appreciate your patience in helping us get that done. I don't think that I have anything else, so I'm going to start with Commissioner Riddle and work this way.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Fields.
One thing I'd like to say, I had the opportunity, me and Jimmy, last week, Had an opportunity to go over to 1735 and look at the new asphalt and striping, and then 2348. Also, we had an opportunity to meet with James Construction and PTP, and everything really went well there. Jimmy, I want to thank you for going with me and going through all that stuff. And, I'm looking forward to working with you and hopefully get some good things for the county done. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Hinton.
I'd like to recognize and say, welcome aboard. Look forward to working with you. And that's all I have to say.
This is your opportunity to say anything that you want to say. I mean, tell us what's going on in your county. Sometimes you'll have nothing to say. You may have 2 or 3 things to say from time to time. So this is your spot.
I'd like to say now that I appreciate the support and all that I've had the first week, my guys included. They have been tremendous in helping me get my feet on the ground out there. And everybody up here that I've talked to and all has been the same way, and I definitely appreciate that. I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you in any and every way, and if I can be of assistance to any one of you, just be sure and let me know.
Okay. Joan, I passed right over you, our new county clerk, Joan Newman. Welcome. And I think that's all the new faces today. So again, 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I think we're done. Okay. We did approve the bills.
You mentioned to them about the Northeast Texas rural management.
I think I'm going to put that on the agenda for the next time, but we are once again asked to continue our participation in the Northeast Texas Regional Mobility Authority, the NET-RMA, which is a consortium of counties that at least supposedly are work together to solve regional needs. We have a representative that we appoint every couple of years, and that representative is Hudson Old, and I'm not sure when his next renewal will be. Hudson may be getting tired of serving in that capacity. I'm going to have him share with us at the next meeting his summary of our participation. He has vacillated his opinion on our participation. At times he thinks it's a waste of time. What is it, $2,000 a year?
It was one of the bills that was approved, and I might want to send that in to y'all next meeting.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that to my attention. I'd like to get a report back from Hudson. I want to be sure that y'all have a little more information on whether you want to continue to participate. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I would like to see us continue. Granted, it hasn't produced a lot of fruit for us yet, but I hate to bail out on this group, but I do want a report from the guy that is there on a monthly basis. So let's hold off on paying that one, at least for a couple more weeks. Would you put there on your agenda for next week a presentation by Hudson and vote NET-RMA? Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to, Sheriff, you have anything? Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Riddle, second by Commissioner Parker. I'm glad that y'all weren't silent today. We needed that. All right, have a great day, and thanks again.